So this is the house that we are interested in buying. We made an offer on it. What was it? We made an offer, I think, on last Thursday. So what happened is Christina passed around letters in a few neighborhoods. These guys called us. We came and took a look at the house on Wednesday, so this was about a week ago. And then once we saw it, we knew we liked it a lot. So we started the negotiation process, and working directly with the seller, it was a little bit more complicated than a traditional real estate negotiation, but we were able to come to terms on price and the other terms of the contract, which was exciting, but it took like 5 days. So a little bit of a grueling process. It wasn't a quick decision. It was a thought out, a slept on decision on both sides. But we did come to terms, which is awesome. A few things to note. We did make, how many offers did we make? 5 other offers. In all cases, you know, we made strong offers. We had tight contracts. We waived contingencies.
Everything.
We did all the things that I tell my clients to do, or at least advise them to do. I don't tell my clients what to do, but things that I recommend when we're making offers in competitive situations. And for us, the walkaway point was lower than for other people. So when we saw this one, we knew this was the house that we were willing to really stretch for and make work. So it was nice that it was off the market, so we didn't have to compete with other buyers for it, but we still ended up, you know, we still had to pay a significant amount.
Yeah. Today's a big day. Today's the inspection day, so.
So, company is Sound Sewer Inspection. We do sewer inspections and locating for sewer lines. So we do a lot of pre-inspections for properties that people are about to purchase, and just trying to let consumers know if they have any pre-existing conditions before they go to make an offer on a house. Is it just roots and we only have to pay $400, so that's something we can take on ourselves, or was there a break out there by the street and I located it? It's 8 feet down, so we talk about, okay, you better budget, you know, $5,000 to get this thing dug up and fixed. So that's mostly what our company does. I'd say 80% of it, the other 20% is commercial, where it's just general maintenance and making sure things are working on commercial properties. And Seattle's a big redevelopment and flipping market, so doing a lot of pre and post videos of sewer lines for guys to get their permits, because they'll go and they'll put in a new sewer line to the sidewalk, right? And then what they're doing now is pipeline, so they don't have to dig up the street, they just put a synthetic liner on the inside, so we do a lot of inspecting and video for that.
How nauseous is making us? Yeah.
Sewer scope for the house, it's basically like a colonoscopy for the house. It's what it is. We get the camera into the pipes, traveling out the back, and the sewer line's exiting out the side of the house and then traveling out to the street. So we got the camera in there making sure there's no cracks or breaks or root intrusion. It's a clay pipe line, so they're more susceptible to roots growing within the seams of the clay pipe. So that's what we're looking for today.
Welcome to your colonoscopy, right? So how are we looking?
We've got some root intrusion in the line.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot? Significant?
Yeah, significant amount.
Okay.
2 ways to clean the roots out of the sewer line. One's rootering, like you heard of Mr. Rooter, where they knock the roots out with a spinning blade. But kind of a newer way they're doing it was with high pressured water called hydrojetting. And that's more effective for the clay pipe. Not only does it get the roots off, it kind of blows them off with this high pressured water, but it also pushes all the roots and the debris through the line down into the main, so you have a nice clean line when you're done with de-rootering the line.
So in your opinion, you would recommend doing the hydrojetting?
This pipe, because it's a clay pipe, I would recommend the hydrojetting.
Okay. And when would you recommend the rootering instead?
On a clay pipe, on a concrete line.
Concrete
the
line.
concrete is a kind of a more of a brittle pipe, so it doesn't react well to that high pressure water. It kind of gets chipped away at it. So when it's clay, I like to jet, and when it's concrete, I like to do the rootering with blades.
What are some of the more common problems that are more bigger issues that you run into?
Well, a line that has a history of being rooted a lot, so instead of fixing the problem once, cutting out the roots, and then you start treating the line with chemicals, stopping the roots from growing back in. Some people just want to make sure the roots are out and they blindly rooter it. So if you do that consistently year after year, what happens when that rooter machine hits corners, it starts to pop holes into it.
Yeah.
I mean, horror story as far as somebody trying to buy a piece of property, when they go out and get out to the main and it's completely disconnected at the main. That's an expensive repair. That's 14 feet below asphalt. That's a $20,000 repair job. It's about as bad as it gets.
works in the light.
So here's the worst of it right there.
Yeah.
That's a good camera shot
How
right
far-
there.
how
That's
far
about
in is
as
that?
deep as it gets, 40 feet in.
40 feet in. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
So there's no-
dominating the line. The water's barely getting through, but it's grabbing all the toilet paper and organic waste is getting caught up on it.
Is that the nice way of saying poop?
Right. Organic waste.
Definitely.
What's the cost to do the cleaning on it?
The jetting of the line probably on this job probably will cost about $450 to clean it out.
Well, Brian's a home inspector, and we'll let him introduce himself in a little bit, but he's a friend. He's been inspecting homes for at least 3 years now, so he's well into his inspection career, does a great job. He's one of the inspectors that I recommend to clients, and he does a really thorough job, and he really prides himself on educating people. So when he does his inspections, you don't just get a report, but you're actually getting an education to go along with it. So he'll actually take the extra time. Some inspectors won't, but he'll take the extra time to walk you through the different systems in the house, and he will really go above and beyond, I guess, what the call of duty is. And I really appreciate that. So that's why he's one of the inspectors that I recommend.
So my name is Brian Wendorf. I'm a home inspector inspecting Zach and Christina's house that they're prospectively buying. Just kind of going through it from top to bottom to make sure systems are in order, roof, siding, exterior, deck, everything's working how it should, and then translating that to them in a way that makes sense given the age of the house and what they're looking for, and trying to make a good fit for them, as well as give them information that they can use to go forward with this process. So anytime I have this much cracking in a torch down roof, it just tells me that it's at the end of its lifespan, and this is probably now beyond existing end of expected lifespan.
Yep. That's a bummer. Let's just be real.
What's the cost of a new roof?
Depends.
So this guy, you're probably tearing this off, and then at that point deciding, do you want to add more insulation on top of the roof deck, or are you just good with putting another layer? So your least expensive option would be with the torch down again, and that's probably going to run you 8 to 12, somewhere in there. And if you went with, so this is a fairly low slope.
There goes the cash that we were putting aside.
It's a fairly low slope roof, so really it's kind of too low slope to do like an asphalt shingle. You can do an asphalt shingle down to I think a 212 or a 312 pitch, but you have to install it a specific way with multiple layers, especially down at the edges, because asphalt shingles aren't designed to, they're not designed to be a waterproof system, they're more of a water shedding system. Fascia board here, so they painted everything that you get to and then forgot to paint this just because it was hard to get to, I guess. And then you have, I'm still trying to decide, maybe I'll know more as I go through, whether this started its life as a carport like that and somebody enclosed it. Okay.
It did.
That's kind of what makes sense to me, because your attic ventilation currently today, you don't have any soffit vents and there's no ridge or roof vents. You have a gable vent at that end on
Just
the
one.
end wall, and my guess would be there would have been one here, and the idea was air was moving
So right
across
now we
here.
have really bad ventilation in there.
Very minimal ventilation for the attic space. So if you come down here, and they added this kind of other style of torch down or rolled roofing material here is kind of flashing, and down here it just didn't really adhere very well to the side of the house. So that's a place where water's been able to work in, plus we didn't seal it very well here, so that you got the moss growing here. We had enough water working back behind this spot here that the siding right here and below here, my screwdriver just goes right into it. So this is a spot right here where I've got some rot and some potential water intrusion into the siding right here.
So we're up on the roof. We, of course, when we did our first walkthrough, before making our offer, we couldn't tell what was up on the roof, but we did find out that the roof is pretty much past its point of no return. So we need to get a new roof on here. We probably wouldn't do torch down again. We'd probably go with some kind of PVC roof, or maybe even metal, have a little bit more life on them. But other than that, there's a little bit of dry rot up here and some stuff that was kind of DIY, which is normal. But I think the roof's a pretty big deal, so we'll see what we can do here.
And then electrical, you got a newer panel. I still have kind of the majority of the house is reading grounded. GFCI protected where it should be, like in the living room, got 2 outlets that are still ungrounded, but they're GFCI protected. In the bedrooms, I still have, like in the northeast bedroom and this east middle bedroom, I still have ungrounded outlets. They're 2-pronged, so we still have some amount of ungrounded wiring. And when I get in the attic, we still have some of the old wiring, you know, doing lights and stuff like that. But
It's like 80 to 90% done. So
I
that sounded about
probably
right.
agree with that.
Okay.
The water tanks from 2014, I think. Yeah, 2014. So either got put in at the end of 14 or beginning of 15. The only thing I would probably should get corrected is, one, it'd be nice. I have to double check the blinds coming. So this is the grounding screw for the hot water tank. So technically I should have a ground wire that comes out and attaches to that, so the metal tank is grounded. And then the pressure relief drain needs to be corrected. Somebody wanted to get it over to the sink, but you can't pipe these things up. So they installed the pressure relief and temperature relief drain way up here in this extension piece, but that has a temperature sensing rod in it that's supposed to be inside the tank itself. So the temperature inside this pipe is never going to be the same as what's in the tank. So that's incorrect. That needs to actually be in the tank. And then, yeah, you really don't have an easy way to get it over there now. So you're going to probably have to just pipe it into this pan. So today on this house, you've got a roof that's kind of past due for needing replacement. And then some kind of minor siding issues that you can see behind me here, where we used to have a carport and then at some point it got enclosed into a garage, and there's some issues with the way that was executed. The bulk of the original house siding and windows and everything is in pretty good shape. So then it's just going through the house and seeing how many of the old systems, like the plumbing and electrical, have been updated. And most of the electrical has been updated, and it looks like all of the plumbing feed lines have been updated. So anytime we get in a house this old, we're always kind of looking for you know, old plumbing issues, which the other side of that is the drain lines, which they had I think you guys already got videos of the sewer scope happening. So that's kind of the other half that's important, especially when buying an older house. And then this house is currently still oil heated. A lot of times older houses pre-mid 1960s were all oil heated and then got maybe converted to gas or electric at some point. So if you're buying an older house from this era and it's no longer oil heated, you want to make sure that the oil tank on the property was decommissioned properly.
When moving into a spot, how much do you expect to pay in like fixing up the house?
That's a good question. So typically when you move into a house, there's going to be work to be done, unless it's new construction, and even then you're still going to find things. Most builders will give you a 1-year warranty because there's inevitably things that aren't finished or aren't done correctly. So anytime you buy an older house, this house is built in 1957, you're going to have things that need to be done. Typically those are going to be either items that were deferred maintenance. That's the most common. So that's going to be like the yard, or just like the hot water heater is out, or the furnace is out, or getting close to the end of their life. Sometimes the roof needs to get replaced or have work done to it. I'd say the most common things though are just little things like the yard's a little overgrown, or caulking's failed on the bathtub, just little things. So I'd say there's a handful of things that you'll do right away, and those are the things that are like really important. So if the roof's leaking, you're going to replace the roof, and if the sewer line is plugged up, you're going to go ahead and clean that out. But the majority of things are just little maintenance, deferred maintenance things that you'll have to do. And any homeowner is going to have projects to do on their house, and quite frankly, you're going to have projects for the rest of the time you own the house. So that's going to be one thing after the other. So just expect that when you buy a house, you're going to be taking on some of the maintenance responsibilities, which when you're renting you don't have to deal with, which is a nice thing.